Right now my building is sitting a little below street level, so I'm going to need to build a base to raise it up to sidewalk level. So I took a sheet of styrene, cut it to size, and then added some shims to get it up to sidewalk level. And then the building will go on top of that. On one end of the ground floor was the San Diego Savings Bank with its shiny marble floors. And then on the other end, we have the foyer outside, and then we have the elevator lobby right here, and then the stairwell, all with its shiny marble. Since the edges of the base are going to be visible, I threw some color on it real quick. And then I found some marble texture online, which I manipulated for the floor, and then I printed it on glossy copy paper. Then I cut it out and glued it onto the styrene base. Look at that. Looks like I got a slab of marble. Alright, so I glued the foyer assembly to the marble slab, and then using some of the leftover door assemblies, I added doors to the bank from the lobby, as well as this opening to the stairwell. The stairwell is here, and the elevators in the back there. For the elevators, I'm going to be using a photo, and I need to use forced perspective on this since we are going to be looking at the elevators through the doors in the foyer. We're going to see the elevators from the side. So I'm going to be using this elevator on the left here because we can see this side of the elevator. So I took that door and duplicated it and put it on the marble texture background, and then added period correct push buttons and floor indicators. And then glued it to the back wall. And then here you could see the 3D effect happening with the elevators in there. Kinda, yeah. See that 3D effect happening there? Yeah. Pretty slick. Next, I'd like to add this lobby shop. For the counter, I'm going to be using this Evergreen Scale Models rectangular tube number 259, which is 0.25 by 0.375 tube. It's about perfect for the size of a counter. So I measured it and then cut it. This will be flipped around and glued back on to make the L-shaped counter. I cut the counter to size and then squared it up in my squaring jig, and then gave it a shot of glue. And then I sprayed on some of the trim color for the countertop. So I got some bits of styrene and fabricated the cabinetry that's going to fit behind the counter like this. So I already glued on the upper cabinet. This is just a photo. I glued that on as the upper cabinetry. I took some square tubing and some sheet styrene to make the lower cabinetry. It'll just basically be another one of these down here. And then this little lip right here is the top of the counter, and this square tube on top is going to be the stack of newspapers. I went to Heritage Square in Los Angeles, and they have this pharmacy here that has this great cabinet here that I think this cabinet can work for the lobby shop cabinet, and all the items in here, even though they're pharmaceutical, I think they could pass for everyday sundry items that you would find in a lobby shop. So I took that cabinet and I trimmed it out and flattened it and printed it out and glued it on, and that's what you see. And that's what you see there. So that's the back cabinet. Then I took this and I flipped it for the lower cabinets, and I think that way the smaller items are on top, which would be probably more likely in a cabinet behind the counter. And then I also grabbed some 1920s newspapers and put them on there. And then also got the end view of the newspaper stacks and got that there. And so when this is all folded up, it should have the correct 3D look to it. I printed it out and sealed it with a spray lacquer. Okay, on the back side, I am very carefully going to scribe a fold line between the top portion of the newspaper and the side of the newspapers. Just very lightly scribe, just a fold line, that's all I need. There we go. Alright, I got it cut out. Let's see if I could fold this thing. Let's see if that worked. Folds in there somewhere. Here we go. Yeah. Starting to look like stacks of newspapers. Yeah. There we go. That's going to fit on there like this. Cool. Let's get that glued on. All right, I got it glued on there. Look at that. Yeah. Pretty tricky, huh? Pretty slick. And I glued it on with canopy glue. I really like canopy glue. This stuff looks really good. But I think we achieved the effect we're looking for. So now this fits in here like this. And there we go. Cool. Interaction Hobbies makes this vintage cash register 3D print. So I took one of those and painted it up in gold and then glued it on the counter right there. For my next trick, I want to attempt to make this old-timey postcard stand. So I went online and I found all kinds of vintage San Diego postcards, and then I scaled them down and arranged them in 2 rows of 4. Okay, I got it printed out. Let's see if I can make this work. This is tiny. This is so tiny. Oh my gosh. Okay, so far so good. Okay. Now, all honesty, I can't tell which way's up and which way's down. Okay, I think I got it. Okay, I think that's up. Okay, so on this one, I'm gonna cut a slot halfway up in the center right there. Okay. And then on this one, halfway down center right there. Okay. Ay, ay, ay. I'm gonna be able to get these together. Let's see. Oh my God. I'm gonna do this. Let's see. Okay, there we go. That is tiny. There. Yeah. That's crazy. That is so tiny. Next, I would like to attempt a magazine stand. And so I found all these 1920s magazines here. But as we saw with the postcards, when it's printed out to scale, you could barely see them. So it didn't really matter. So I scaled them down, and then I'm printing them out. Since they overlap in the magazine stand, I just had to print them out separate. Okay, here they are printed out. My finger for scale, they're tiny. Alright, so I'm going to cut all these out into strips. Okay, let's see what we can do here. Trying to keep all these strips upright. Put a dab of glue on the top half. And it's going to overlap about half of the magazine like that. I don't know. All right, let's let that dry. Okay, let's see if this worked. Did I glue it to the mat? I glued it to the mat. What do I got? Okay, that pried it up. Hey. Okay. Let's see what it looks like from the side. Now it's supposed to look like overlapping magazines from the side. Does it? Man, could I have just made that a strip? It didn't make any difference. It's like one issue per rack. I don't know. But there it is. And that glues onto the side of the building like that. And there we go. Not bad. All that's left now is to populate it. Alrighty. I painted up some characters for this project. These guys are, let me see. This guy here, he's from Knuckle Duster. And then this man and woman here up front. And this guy is from Stadden. And then look at this guy going. Look at him go. And then the guy there in the back. The woman there in the back. And this guy is from Finishing Touches. And I got them all arranged inside the lobby. Okay, now with the lobby shop done, now it's time for the bank interior. So click part 9. Part 9. Jeez, this video really got out of hand. Anyway, join me as I cut up round and rectangular plastic tubes to assemble to resemble bank teller windows, office furniture, and whatever else we need. And I paint up another cast of characters to populate this stately enterprise. All right, it's been dandy.